Walter came home. He undressed in the hallway, put on his slippers, walked down the hall, and shouted, "I'm home." His wife, Viola, looked out of the kitchen and said, "You're late today, half an hour late." "I went to see a comrade in a skirt," Walter replied. "You did it fast, don't bother. I'm in my room on the second floor, so you're not answering me all of a sudden, you're jealous of me. Isn't it a little late for that? I'm already 47 years old, okay, go ahead, dinner will be at 9 o'clock. Walter went to his office on the second floor. He opened the briefcase he had brought with him and took out a sealed envelope. He put it on the desk, sat down in a comfortable chair, took the envelope in his hands, and wondered if he wanted to know what was in the envelope. No, he knew what the envelope contained. It contained the result of a DNA test done in secret from his wife and for which he had shelled out a lot of money. That's what he'd gone to his buddy's house for today, and now he was in no hurry to find out the truth about the conception and birth of his children. He remembered how many years ago he, a young student studying in the third year of university, suddenly discovered a handsome woman with whom he fell in love. He didn't understand how it was that having studied with her since his first days, he was only now getting a glimpse of her. He learned everything there was to know about her. It turned out that Viola was dating Ernest, a fifth-year student. They had a great relationship and lived together. At the end of the school year, Ernest passed the state exams, defended his diploma, and left for his placement. To the surprise of everyone, Viola did not follow him, and soon Walter learned that the couple had broken up. During the whole fourth year, Walter was courting Viola, but he had time to study and found a part-time job, which gave him financial independence. Slender with a handsome, well-built figure, charming young man was a perfect match for Viola, and eventually, she thought so too. They started dating, and by the end of the fourth year, they were living together. Once it became clear that Viola was expecting a child, Walter insisted that they legalize their relationship. They had a simple, inexpensive student wedding. After barely defending her diploma, Viola gave birth to his son, Henry. Walter was happy. They stayed to work in their hometown where they studied. A year later, a daughter was born, Judy. After the birth of a daughter, in the city, appeared Ernest. He worked on assignment for 2 years, got married, and returned to town with his wife, who was 9 months pregnant. Ernest and Viola met by chance at the women's clinic where Ernest would bring his wife, Eva, and Walter would bring Viola. They struck up a friendship. Viola quickly got along with Eva, sharing with her feminine secrets. When Eva's due date came, they all worried together, even though they knew there was no reason to worry. They took her and the baby out of the maternity hospital together. After a while, Viola informed Walter that she was pregnant. She had given birth to her youngest son, Kevin. Kevin was a weak child and gave his parents a lot of trouble. Walter spent all his free time with Kevin. When he grew up, Walter encouraged him to play sports. The older children were also involved in sports, and they achieved some success. They are now grown up and enrolled in the university their parents once attended. Over the years, Walter managed to build a cottage where he and his wife moved in. The city apartment remained to live in the daughter who married, the eldest son lived with his wife and built his own house, the youngest settled in the student dormitory, reasoning that it was closer to the university. All the children were independent and loved their parents. It happened so at the end of the summer, in the cottage of Walter and Viola, their children gathered, and Ernest with Eva and son Neil came to visit. Everyone was sitting around the table, set outside. That's when Walter noticed Kevin and Neil. They were standing side by side and discussing something. Walter noticed how similar they looked, like twin brothers. After chatting up the guests, he brought out a digital camera and took pictures of everyone throughout the sit-down. Then, left alone, he carefully compared the photos of Ernest, Neil, and Kevin, but he himself realized that this was not proof on number to Viola. Having collected money, he secretly took DNA samples from all his children, Ernest and his son, through an acquaintance. He sent all the samples to an accredited genetic laboratory for anonymous DNA tests. The results of such tests are for personal information only, and today the answers to his questions arrived. He sat there dreading learning the truth, sighing. He made up his mind. He took a clerical knife out of his desk drawer and opened the envelope, convincing himself that he had imagined everything and that it couldn't be true. Quietly, he took the papers out of the envelope and began to study them. The results of the biological paternity test, which listed Ernest as the alleged father and Kevin as the child, said, based on the results of the analysis, the probability of paternity is 99%. Walter's world crumbled. He looked at the rest of the research results. They confirmed that he was Henry and Judy's father. It appeared that his wife had cheated on him after returning to Ernest's town. Now Walter was in shock, but he was in no hurry to make a decision. He needed to vent his emotions. He wanted to scream, swear, and cry, but he couldn't do that either. He couldn't throw her things away, kick her out of the house. He realized the affair had happened, and there was nothing he could do about it. There was only one question: is their romance still going on now? And what to do now? How to live with it? He understood that he needed to calm down and choose further tactics of his behavior, the order of communication with Viola, decide whether to forgive her or not. After all, they already had 26 years of marriage behind them. Although somewhere inwardly when he sent the materials for examination, Walter was ready for such an outcome. Nevertheless, pain and despair, utter frustration and anger, came over him. Now he did not understand the meaning of further life with Viola at all. Still, he decided he would not make any decisions today. Besides, the affair might still be going on, and it was unlikely that Viola would admit it. Regarding that, he decided that he would simply ask Viola about it directly today. If she cheats, he will realize it. At the same time, he didn't want to see his wife. And today was Friday, and there were 2 days off. Downstairs in the kitchen, his wife was rattling the dishes and soon called him to dinner. Sighing, Walter made photocopies of the results of the biological paternity test, then put all the papers in a secret drawer. He went downstairs, grabbing a bottle of whiskey on the way. Viola set the table for two. Seeing the bottle of whiskey, she asked, "Are we having a celebration?" "Yes, in a way." "Well, I won't drink whiskey. I have good wine." "Take the corkscrew and open it, please," Walter said. Walter opened the wine, poured it into a tall glass, then opened the whiskey and poured it for himself. His wife took the glass and wondered, "Still, what are we drinking to tonight?" Walter, taking his glass of whiskey, replied, "Before I voice this, tell me, are your love affairs with Ernest still going on?" "Walter, that was a long time ago, you know that. I lived with Ernest before you. I thought you remembered that." "I'm not talking about that period. I'm talking about the period from when he came back to town and first came to our place to the present. We haven't seen him in over 25 years. I think we can just forget it as a mistake from the distant past and leave it at that." "So, you'll only tell the truth when I put the evidence on the table?" "What truth? I never hid anything from you." "All right, then tell me the story of Kevin's birth." "He was born like everyone else in a maternity hospital. You drove me there." "Okay, just to clarify, tell me the story of Kevin's conception." Viola put her glass on the table and lowered her eyes. She asked, "And what do you want to know?" "I voiced it to you at first. Our affair lasted more than a year, then we stopped when Ernest finished his studies at the university and went to work in another city. I waited for him for a long time, hoping he would call me, but he didn't, and I met you. I fell in love with you, not right away, but I did. When Judy was born, he came to town, and no, we never met. But then his wife was in the hospital, he stopped by, you were at work out of town, the kids Judy and Henry were asleep, that's when we resumed our love affair. Then, after that, we only went out a few times. I don't know how, but his wife Eva found out. Ernest persuaded her not to make a fuss and break up our family, and we swore to her that we'd never see each other again. So how did you decide to have a baby with him?" "I wasn't sure it was his baby, 50% were in favor of it being yours." Yeah, we talked to Ernest about it when he found out I was pregnant, but it was too late to do anything about it. And what did you decide? That's what we decided, since you both have similar physical characteristics and even have the same blood type. I thought there was nothing to worry about. Unfortunately, and I noticed this as Kevin got older, he started to look more and more like Ernest, and that was not to be prevented. Viola sipped her wine and poured herself another glass. Walter, looking at her, finished the whiskey in his glass and set it on the table. He thought about it. His blood was boiling, his heart was beating frantically in his chest. Viola interrupted the silence by saying, "I told you everything. I think we should forget about this unpleasant incident and move forward. I have a different opinion, and I haven't made a decision about what to do next. I'll have to think about it. For now, I'm sleeping in my office, honey. I respect your decision, but I think it's wrong. We have a beautiful bedroom with a big bed." "The big bed where you used to take Ernest?" "No, not at all. When all this happened, we didn't live in a cottage. It wasn't even in the project. We haven't had that bed for a long time. It doesn't matter. I can't sleep with you. Good night, Walter. You haven't even touched your dinner." "Thank you. I've had enough." Viola expressed no regret, no remorse in her words, and most importantly, she didn't ask for forgiveness. She simply stated the fact of her infidelity, reasoning that it happened because it happened. Viola, left in the kitchen, was at a loss. She never thought that their affair, which had lasted a little over 2 months over 20 years ago, would suddenly be discovered. Divorcing Walter was not something she wanted to do. After all, they had been young then, hormones at play, and then Eva had forgiven Ernest for the affair, and they kept what they'd promised her when she'd found out. After thinking about everything, Viola dialed Ernest's phone. He answered quickly. "Viola, listening to you." "Ernest, we have a problem." "What is it?" "Walter found out that Kevin is not his son." "But how?" "Because you claimed we were physically the same, but as Kevin got older, he started to look like you. He's just like you when you were young. Walter took a paternity test. It's not going to come back, and we have to do something about it. He even knows we've been seeing each other, but he doesn't know Kevin is your son. I never told her that, neither did I. You decide what you're going to do now." Walter went to his office on the second floor. He put a bottle and a glass on the table and sat down in the chair. He had a drink, but he didn't get drunk. He made up the sofa and lay down, tossed and turned for a long time, but finally fell asleep. He woke up early, washed his face, dressed leisurely, made his bed, and left the apartment. He did not eat breakfast. He knew that Viola would wake up, but he did not want to see her. And indeed, half an hour later, the cell phone call started. He realized from the ringtone that Viola was awake and trying to contact him. He refused to answer her calls, and then the text messages started coming in. Soon, the phone went silent. Viola became convinced that she could not contact him. He walked to the mall, went up to the top floor. There in the front office was Eva, Ernest's wife, working. Walter knew she had a workday today. As he expected, Eva was in her office, drinking coffee. She saw Walter and said, "Hello, Walter, come in." "Hello, Eva. Do you know why I'm here?" "I know. You came to hear about what happened over 20 years ago. I forgot about it and forgave them. In fact, I've become Viola's friend." "Why?" "She replaced me in a way while I was in a way helpless after childbirth. At the same time, she did not try to take Ernest away from me, though she had loved him once. But still, I resent him now. What has offended you after all this time?" Yet yesterday Viola called Ernest. I was sitting next to her, and yesterday I found out that the result of their meetings was the birth of Kevin, and that was kept from me. I hadn't really looked at him before, but now I realize that he looks like Ernest. "But I take it you have the DNA test results?" "Yes, and it absolutely confirms that he is." "So, what do you think you should do now?" "What's your advice, Walter?" "I can't advise you, But you have a long life together, and you love Viola. I know you do. I can see it in the way you treat her, talk to her, listen to her, understand her, and maybe forgive her. That's advice. Thank you. Aha, I'm going to go see my son. I'll talk to him. Kevin? Yeah, him. Walter got up and left them all. After he left, Eva picked up the phone and called Viola. She answered right away. Eva, I'm listening. Walter came by. He's very upset. What did he decide? He hasn't made up his mind yet, so he went to see Kevin. I called Kevin and told him everything, and I told him who his biological father was. And what did he say? How'd he take it? Badly. He said, "How could you do that to Daddy, Mom?" I apologized to him, and he promised to talk to Walter not to end our marriage. Okay, I warned you. Walter arrived at the student dormitory. They knew him there, so he got through the watch without much trouble. He went up to the floor and went to his son's room. Kevin was awake. There was a textbook on the table, a pan of scrambled eggs, and a cup of tea. Seeing his father, Kevin said hello, and looking at his pensive face, Walter realized Kevin knew everything. The only question was how long he had known it, but that intrigue was resolved at once. Papa, sit down. Can I get you some tea? Well, if it's still hot. Yes, it's just boiling. I know why you're here. My mom called me and told me everything. It turns out my biological father is Uncle Ernest, and his son is my brother. What do you think about that? What do I think? Yesterday was Friday, and I was at the disco with the guys, and I have a girlfriend, Camila. She slept over and left before you came after Mom called, so I can't think at all. I only know one thing, you are my father, and I don't want any other father. Thank you, son. I'm not going to give up on you because you're my son. Are you serious about the girl? I want to get married. You're in no hurry. You're only a sophomore. So what? I work part-time just like you. A lot of people work here. What do you do, Dad? My specialty is the most in demand right now. I design websites. Henry, he does more design work. Judy translates technical literature from English to Russian. So, that's what we're majoring in. Why are you alone in the room? My buddy went home for the weekend, but I'm thinking of getting an apartment with Camila. So, Camila, what course is she in? Freshman year. When are you going to introduce me to her? Tonight, if you want. But not now. And I think we should talk about you, son. I'll decide what I want to do. Dad, I'm still worried about you. Mom called and asked me to talk you into going back to her and forget about everything. Son, you don't have to worry about me. I'm worried about you now that you've decided to become a family man. Did you buy a ring for the bride yet? Almost. I picked it out, but I haven't bought it yet. You know you have to get 2 rings? I know. So I picked out 1 ring for her. Does she know about it? No, she doesn't. Good. Let's go buy that ring. We don't have many gold stores, and I think they're open. And then, what? Get married. Is the bride from our town? No, she lives nearby a station, 30 kilometers away. It's a half-hour train ride. I've already been there last week visiting. Why did she run away from you today? She went home. I promised I'd come too. All the more reason to go buy a ring. Who are her parents? Her mother and grandmother. The son got ready, and they went to the jewelry store. It took them a long time to choose. The store security started to get nervous watching them, but in the end, everything was resolved. They bought a ring. After that, they went towards the train station. On the way, they bought a beautiful cake with chocolate decorations. Walter bought a bottle of champagne and a bottle of cognac. There were frequent electric trains in that direction, so in 40 minutes, they were already walking from the station towards the houses. They entered the yard. The dog barked, but recognizing Kevin, wagged its tail, and the barking stopped. They knocked, and when they heard permission, they went into a hotly heated hut. Camila, in a simple robe, was finishing scrubbing the floors. When she saw Kevin, she exclaimed, "Mommy, it's Kevin. I saw him through the window." "Who's with him?" A pretty young woman, dressed in a homely way with neat hair, came out into the corridor and asked Kevin, "Who's with you?" "This is my dad. He wanted to meet you." "Nice to meet you. I'm Linda, Camila's mom." "Camila, take off that robe. I'm Walter." "Walter's fine. Well, you know Kevin?" "Yes, we already know Kevin. That's good." Camila came out into the hallway and went into the room and quickly changed her clothes. Then Walter announced, "Linda, you have the goods, we have the merchant." After some joking, Walter and Kevin went into the spacious kitchen where Kevin gave the bride a ring, and Walter gave her a gold chain he had bought at the store. Walter had an idea to complete the set. He decided to give the bride gold earrings for the wedding. They sat down at the table, and then Walter asked, "Where's Grandma?" "She went to a neighbor to gossip, but she will be back soon." Indeed, after another half hour, the front door opened, and an old woman entered, dressed in a youthful warm denim jacket. Linda introduced herself. "Here comes my mom, Molly." Camila grudgingly said, "Grandma, I told you not to wear my jackets." "Oh, granddaughter, I see an old jacket hanging here. I thought you didn't wear it anymore. Grandma, it only looks old." Linda intervened in the conversation and said, "Mom, sit down at the table. There's a matchmaker here, and we're discussing the matter." "Daughter, are you finally getting married?" "I'm all for it. It's high time you got married, and you're a good-looking man." "I see." "Mom, it's not me who is me, not you." "Camila, Grandma." Grandma sat down at the table and as the eldest commanded, "Now, daughter, pour me one of those bottles." "Mom, that's cognac. Maybe some champagne instead?" "No, that's good. Let it be cognac. It's not a sin to drink to your granddaughter and her happiness." The conversation didn't last long. Molly, having drunk a glass of cognac for her granddaughter, became intoxicated and went to rest. The young were moved to the bride's room, and Walter was left alone with Linda. They talked about many things in the wedding. Walter said, "Linda, don't worry. Call me if you need anything. I'll take care of everything." "Oh, we only get phone service near the station. The phone doesn't work here. We're out of range, even though we're near the station." In the conversation, Walter, explaining the reason for his wife's absence, also told what had happened to him. In response to Linda's question, "Well, how are you going to live from now on?" he answered, "I don't know yet. There are a lot of questions, no answers." "You're doing fine. You've raised a beautiful daughter. You're lucky to have a daughter. She took after me. She's stubborn. If she doesn't understand something, she asks. She's not shy. But she excelled in math, so she went to university to study programming. I'm embarrassed to ask, where's your father?" It was a difficult time. He went to earn money, and a year later, wrote a letter that he found another one. He has a new family, divorced not right away. I sold my apartment in the city and moved in with my mother. My father was still alive. Camila was 10 years old. That's when I went to school as a math teacher, and now I'm the school principal. It's a big station. We have a lot of students. People mostly work in town or the station. You've been alone for so many years. Must have been hard, huh? Well, I can't say. I just lived and took care of my daughter. Everything was built for her. And the main thing is, no matter what, she didn't grow up selfish. When she got here today, she went straight to cleaning. No, don't get me wrong. My mom and I keep things neat and tidy too, but she's got a fresh eye, and she sees things we don't. And the suitors? Yeah, I've had them, but all some kind of empty-headed and did not want to work. And one of them even made conditions on how he would communicate with Camila. I preferred to be alone. You have a good daughter. I hope things work out for her and Kevin. Toward evening, Walter was going home, and they offered him a place to stay the night, but he didn't agree, saying he had a lot to do in the city. Kevin and Camila volunteered to walk him to the station. They went outside, and while they were waiting for Camila, Kevin asked, "How do you like my fiancée, son? It's your choice, and you made it. She's yours to live with. I'll take her as she is. What have you decided for yourself?" "Well, for me, I'm still thinking. Kevin, I want you to know that nothing changes between us. I'm still your father, and you're still my son. Where are you going now?" "Home. I have 2 other kids I want to hang out with too. I don't want to be the bad guy in this story." Walter arrived in town. It was about 6 o'clock in the evening. Closer to the train station lived Judy. He knew she was a mommy's girl, but he couldn't help but talk to her. Half an hour later, he was entering the apartment. Technically, this apartment belonged to him. His daughter immediately led him into the kitchen and began setting the table. Her husband, Travis, joined them. Pretty soon, the table was set. A bottle of wine appeared on the table, which Travis opened very deftly. Judy was the first to speak. "Dad, Mom called and told me everything that happened. How are you feeling?" "Me? Fine. Where have you been all day?" "Mom's been looking for you, calling around. There's no self-service where I've been, and I have nothing to talk to her about." "Don't say that. You've been together for years, and now you have to ruin everything." "Well, she made a mistake once in her life. Talk to her and come back." "Judy, daughter, I didn't actually leave the house. It's my day off, and I've been minding my own business. I met Kevin's fiancée. He proposed to her, so get ready for your brother's wedding. As far as talking to Mom, I don't have anything to say to her yet. Look, Dad, don't do anything stupid. Maybe a little foolishness is all you need. But make up with your mom. You love her, and you're not young enough to split up like this. Actually, divorcing your mom would be the stupidest thing you've ever done, and only because of something she did over 20 years ago, especially since it's already over, and you know it. Mom was always a kind, caring mom. I never said she didn't take care of the kids. In fact, she's been living under Eva's watchful eye this whole time. What does that have to do with Aunt Eva? She caught them, and they swore to her that it wouldn't happen again, even though they promised that she still kept an eye on them. My mom didn't tell me that. That she must have forgotten. Okay, but why did she forgive them? She was scared, afraid to be alone with the baby because she just had you. Daddy, I'm begging you, please come back to Mommy. We're all her kids, and we all love her and you equally, and we don't understand how it's possible for you two to break up. Okay, Judy, I've had dinner, and I've got to pay Henry a visit. That's on the way home. But you haven't eaten anything. You haven't even had a glass of wine. I live a healthy lifestyle, daughter. Walter went to Henry, his eldest son. Henry, already warned by his sister, was waiting for him. The table was set. They sat down. Henry asked, Dad, do you want a vodka? Thank you, but I don't want to get drunk. I need to think things through. You know what happened, don't you? I know what happened. I'm not suggesting we get drunk, just a drink. I know it's hard for you. It's okay. Your brother's getting married to Camila. That's good. I know her. She's a freshman at uni. She's a computer programmer. That's how she got together with Kevin, so he's in her village. It's not a village. It's a station. It's quite a big one. That's why you and him couldn't get through. There's a bad connection at the station. I've turned my phone off. I use it as a clock. What's new with Judy? Same old stuff, I guess. Oh yeah, what about the fact that she's pregnant? Oh my God, she's only in her 3rd year, so you and your mom can raise your grandson while she's in school. How are you? I'm doing okay. My cottage is being built, not as fast as I'd like, but the main thing is done. Electricity is connected, gas is connected, water and sewage is done. So, you did it in the summer? Well, yes. Now, as soon as it gets warmer, I'll roof it. I've already bought the materials. They won't loot it. No, I've asked the neighbors to keep an eye on it, and I visit every day. I think we'll move in at the end of summer. My wife's already yelling about planting a vegetable garden. She wants fresh onions from the garden. Not only onions, but radishes and garlic. "Oh, Dad, it still has to grow, and for that, we need to work the land. But it's not soon. It won't be soon. Before you know it, spring will be here. I mean, it's the future. Tell me, what have you and Mom decided? We're worried about you." "I haven't decided anything yet. I think I should meet my friend Vidya and talk to him." "Dad, no fighting and no scandals. You're a grown man. That's why there won't be any fighting and scandal." Walter walked leisurely through the evening city. He could have taken the bus, but he was in no hurry to get home. He knew that the questions would start again, and he couldn't answer Viola yet. But he had summarized some things. Judy, she was on his wife's side, and how she would behave in case of divorce, he could not say. But Henry, the eldest son, he'd go along with whatever he decided, same with Kevin. And Kevin doesn't want to acknowledge his biological father. What might happen in the Ernest family was of no interest to him. Everything in Ernest's family depended on Eva. He was only now figuring out what she had been doing all these years. She was preparing for today. In fact, in the event of a divorce, Ernest would be left with nothing. Everything that had been acquired had been formalized as gifts from Eva's parents. All Ernest's property was used by power of attorney. He once complained that the cottage he had built in a new cottage village was registered to his mother-in-law. The city apartment where they lived had been given to his son Neil. They had no other children. The car they bought was on paper given to them by their father-in-law. Even if Ernest went to court, there was nothing to divide, and he couldn't prove anything. At that very time, Ernest had a serious conversation in the house. Eva asked her husband a question about son Kevin. Ernest did not deny it. He knew that it could not be hidden. He answered, "When you found us out, and then caught us, I did not know that Viola was pregnant. As you remember, we didn't see each other for 3 months. Then you met Walter on the street, and he invited us to visit. We couldn't refuse, so I called Viola at your request, and you agreed to let us go there, and that's when your friendship began." "Yes, I remember how it was. When we arrived, we saw that Viola had a tummy. I asked her then if it would be a problem. And what did she say? She said she was sure she was carrying Walter's baby. But she added that even if it was my child, it would be hard to notice because Walter and I have the same appearance. True, he's taller and more athletic, but that depends on the sport he was into. And when did you notice that this was your kid? As Kevin grew up, he became more and more like me. Recently, we were at their cottage, and Kevin was standing next to me. It was clearly visible. I can see you're not telling me the truth. You knew it was your baby from the moment it was born, and you didn't tell me anything. Now it's all out in the open, and there's a DNA test, and it says straight out that you're Kevin's father. I don't know what I'm going to do with you or what I'm going to do, whether I'm going to stay with you or not. Not I need to think about it. Will you make the same decision Walter will make? No, he had nothing to do with it. We all lied to him. Who all? Me, you, Viola? As for my decision today, I didn't make it. You won't make it like you did then? No, darling. I was a young and frightened fool then. No experience with a baby in my arms in a strange city with a husband who'd strayed. Today, I'm a grown woman with everything to live for. You can't imagine how many men are waiting for me to smile at them. The mall isn't just about young saleswomen and salesmen. There's a whole case of men who come to me to sign leases. Business sharks. So, some of the sharks have fallen for you. That's the wrong thing to say. I've never dated other men, but I think that's about to change. You should make dinner. You're going to stand at the stove, and I'm going to sleep. Sleep in my bedroom. You're sleeping in the guest room? For how long? I don't know about that. And don't forget, the cottage belongs to my mom. Walter came home, went upstairs, closed the door behind him. He took off his shoes and, without undressing, went upstairs to his study. Viola silently looked out of the kitchen, where she was preparing to set the table for a late dinner. but quickly realized that nothing was going to happen. No dinner, no conversation. She put the excess from the table into the refrigerator, turned out the light, and went up to the second floor to the bedroom. She noticed that the door to her husband's room was tightly closed, and she didn't know what he was doing there. She did not dare to go in and went to her room. No sooner had she undressed than the phone rang. She looked. It was Ernest calling. She answered, and the first thing he asked was, "Are you alone, and can you talk?" "Yes, I'm listening to you. I'm in trouble. Eva wants to throw me out on the street with nothing. You told me once that she was just a random hitchhiker on your way, that you only put up with her because she gave you a son. I gave you a son too, but you lived with another man, Walter, and cheated on him. I cheated with you, and you cheated on your wife. I was forced to see you. I've been away from women for too long because of Eva's pregnancy. I realize now that I love her. I realized it too. I loved you, and you're showing yourself to be a total jerk. Viola, let's not fight. We're in the same boat, and only Walter can help us. We need him to stop all this. Tonka could stop it. Look, why are you telling me this? Go directly to Walter. I'm afraid to call him, and I don't understand why you're bringing up the past. You can't solve anything without talking to him. I realized I care about him too, but he's ignoring me. I don't know how to get him to come to the table to talk to me. You haven't talked to him about this at all? Why not? We talked Friday night. And what did you say? I confirmed that you and I had met. I told you. Did you get the kids involved? I did. And your Eva too. Eva probably shouldn't have. Why don't you have your kids over at your place tomorrow morning? Why? I'll be there too, and he'll have to sit at the same table with us to talk. I'll try. Having finished talking to Ernest, Viola called all the children. The only one she couldn't reach was Kevin. Neil, who knew his brother's routine, explained it to her. Mom, he went to his fiance's house, and it's a dead zone for the phone. He'll be on his way back to the city with Camila at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'll call him back in the morning around 8 o'clock. Walter came out of his room, dressed, started down to the first floor, toward the exit. He saw Judy and Henry. He stopped and inquired, "What's the matter?" Henry answered, "Dad, we're coming at Mom's request. She asked us to help her get you to the negotiating table." "Is that why Ernest's leftovers sleeping over?" "I don't know anything about that." "Judy, have you heard about it?" "No, that can't be true." "Kids, I'm not saying he slept over. He probably came over in the morning. Come on, let's all go and talk together. I haven't had breakfast yet. Besides, there's no Kevin, and he's my son too, and he's getting married soon. Dad, he'll be here in half an hour. He's just pulling into town with Camila. He's going to drop her off at her dorm, and then he'll be here." "That's great. I'll have breakfast by then and be home by then." Since everyone's there, Henry tagged along with Walter, saying, "Dad, I haven't had breakfast either, so I'm coming with you." "And you, Judy? Are you coming with us?" "Unlike you, I not only had breakfast, I fed my husband." Viola, after Walter left, started to reprimand Ernest. "I told you it was a bad idea to meet vodka in the morning. Moreover, he didn't hear you come in and concluded that you'd spent the night at my place. But you explained everything to him. The only question is, does he believe me? I don't think he believes me now, much less you. I took a risk. I went to talk to him first thing in the morning, and he wouldn't talk to us. I don't understand. What did you risk?" "What risk?" "He could have gotten into a fight or killed me out of jealousy. That's why you opened the kitchen window, so I could jump out if things got serious. Because you're not going to be able to get to the door. He told me it's stuffy in here, so I should open the window and air it out. And don't close it yet. I thought, where did you get that stuffiness? Did you want me to lie here? A corpse? I'd go to the cemetery, he'd go to jail. That's a great arrangement. He could have sent you to the cemetery or the hospital. That's not true. Walter won't lay a hand on me. Anyway, I don't want to take any chances. Walter's a big moose, and I don't know what's in his head. The door opened and Judy entered the cottage. She said hello and immediately asked, "So is it true that you two are already living together?" Viola indignantly replied, "Who told you such nonsense? Ernest came half an hour ago. Did your father inform you like that?" "Yes, we met him." "Who are we?" "Me and Henry." "And where's Henry?" "He went to breakfast with Daddy." Ernest perked up and turned to Judy. "Judy, Mommy and I are to blame for your father. We did indeed make a foolish mistake in our relationship, and as a result of that foolishness, Kevin was born." "That's right, but we dated for a short time, and there was hope that Kevin was your father's son. After what happened, we didn't take any more liberties like that. I think you should have come clean when Kevin was born and you realized he wasn't my dad's son. Told him everything honestly. I think the outcome would have been very different." "How?" "You wouldn't have been friends, but maybe our family wouldn't have fallen apart. He would have forgiven Mom. What happens now and what he'll decide when he's found out the truth, I don't know." Henry and Walter drove to the train station where there was a 24-hour travel cafe, but there wasn't much choice: eggs with mayonnaise, crabstick salads, wieners with mashed potatoes, tea, and coffee. They sat down at a table and began to eat breakfast. Walter was in no hurry to get anywhere, and before starting the coffee, dialed Eva's cell phone. "Good morning, Eva." "Good morning to some, but good morning to you too. Is something wrong?" "Yes, your husband was at my house first thing in the morning." "What did he want?" "He's looking for a place to live, so he came to Viola. I gave him a little hint yesterday that the house belongs to my mom, but I didn't kick him out. Although now I think I should. Did I interfere with your plans?" "I don't have any plans for him." "What about Viola?" "When I saw them having tea in the hall, I knew I couldn't forgive her, even though I've got everyone against me." "Who's everyone?" "All my children." "Do you need any help?" "No, tell me, what have you decided with Ernest?" "A divorce. I can't live with him in an environment where I don't trust him and control him all the time. He doesn't know that I know about his few short-term affairs, so there's no trust in him. You know, internally, I was ready for this. You just gave me the push I needed. How are you going to be alone? I've got a lot of men circling me, but I'm not going to rush into it. You married for love, is that so easy to forget? Walter, I have lived in a state of mistrust and deceit for over 20 years. I don't intend to live like that any longer. And I don't remember who said it, but now I know for sure that from love to hate is one step. I think Aristotle said that. And I know that for most people, unfortunately, there is no turning back at all. Good luck to you." The son, listening to everything his father was saying, suggested, "Dad, why don't we not go home? You don't seem to need this conversation." "They need it, and it has to happen." Walter and Henry arrived at the cottage. Viola, Judy, and Kevin were sitting in the hall, and Ernest was with them. Walter said hello to everyone and said, "I am in my room to change, and will be downstairs in a couple of minutes to hear from you." He went up to his room and was soon downstairs. Everyone sat down at the table, and Walter said, "I am ready to hear you all out." Judy was the first to speak. "Daddy, you know very well what this is about. You have talked to all of us, and we have all given our opinions. Now, we're all interested in your decision. We are your family, after all. Ernest is also a member of our family, and that's why he's here. Walter, I came to talk to you. We've been friends all this time, and now the preservation of my family depends a lot on what you decide. No, Ernest, you just don't know that my decision won't change anything about your family. Eva has already made her decision. And I was your friend, and you were the snake in the grass. What did Eva decide? She's going to tell you herself. Regarding my decision, I've decided to divorce Viola. I'm not going to fight over the cottage. I think it's for Kevin, who's getting married. The money we have, I propose we split it in half. Since I have no claim on the house, I'll keep my car, of course. I'll take my personal belongings and my laptop, the computer, and everything that goes with it, printer, scanner. I'll leave it at the house. Since Kevin and his fiancée are programmers, they'll need it. I'm leaving him all my tools. If he wants, he can share with Neil and Judy's husband. Within a week, I'll try to move out of here. I don't know where, but I have a phone number you can always contact me. We both have well-paying jobs today. We're a long way from retirement, and we're well on our way to moving on with our lives. Besides, Ernest is already sitting around waiting for me to vacate the cottage. So your life, Viola, will be arranged. As for my life, it is no longer your concern. There was silence. Viola cried quietly, unable to say anything. Ernest was silent, and finally, Judy spoke. Papa, this is a rather unexpected decision. Unexpected for all of us. I didn't even suppose that you could do such a thing to Mom because of a stupid thing that happened more than 20 years ago. Tell me, why did you decide that? Because you love Mom, Judy. I have nothing to say. Viola, you know how much I loved you. But now, my pain, disgust, and anger are far greater than my love for you. After thinking for a moment, Walter added, No, Judy, there was no foolishness before I met your mother. She lived with Ernest and loved him. Then, he went away to work on his studies and left her. She waited for him for almost a year, but I came along, and she married me. Ernest came back with his wife, and everything was love, only in doing so, our marriage was destroyed, our family was betrayed, I was humiliated. But Dad, all these years later, she never met him again. Yet, she didn't. But she loved him and only lived with me because we already had children, you and Henry. Besides, Ernest didn't want to leave his wife. Now they are both free. Viola spoke. Walter, there is truth in what you say. But after I broke up with Ernest, I fell in love with you. And when you told me on Friday your rejection, I was just confused. I thought this story would be a secret between the three of us, me, Ernest, and Eva. Unfortunately, you figured it out. I thought it was too old a story that would be of no consequence. But I see I was wrong. I don't understand why you did that, Viola. You and I talked about this on Friday. Yes, I remember. I told you everything, and I didn't hide anything. I just didn't give what happened so long ago any importance. That's right, Viola. You stated the fact of your love affair with Ernest and the subsequent breakup and forgot the main thing. I don't think it mattered to you or Ernest. To this day, neither you nor Ernest have apologized to me for what you did, which tells me that you didn't care about me then, and you don't care about me now. You're thinking about yourself, Viola. Walter, I don't think anything of myself. But I really don't think it's important. Our meetings lasted only 2 months. In that time, we met 4 times. You never loved me. You were comfortable with me. I'll try to find an apartment across town so our paths don't cross. And do me a favor, don't call me. That would only be a last resort. Why do you think we're so bad? What's good? You cheated on me with another man, had a child with him that I raised. You don't even see the guilt of what you did, so you don't feel the need to apologize. You still love him today. I'm just a solid backup plan. You always knew my heart belonged to you, and I would do anything for you as long as I thought you were mine alone. But you changed. And having our kids here is your attempt to pressure me with them. I don't blame the kids. You were a good mother to them. But to me, you were an unfaithful wife. You always thought I was under your thumb. I was guilty of this as I showed it by my behavior here. That I agreed with everything you demanded and suggested. Only it wasn't true. I always did everything the way I thought it should be done, and you never noticed it. I won't tell you how much pain you've caused me. It's all mine, and it will stay in me. And I have nothing more to say, except to suggest that I go on Tuesday and file for divorce. I don't agree to a divorce. Then I'll see you in court. I'm done. You mean you won't forgive me for a little stupidity over 20 years ago? The little fool is sitting at this table right now, getting married. And as far as forgiveness goes, neither you nor Ernest have asked that I forgive you. You don't want that at all. However, I will tell you this, I have forgiven you, Viola. I just can't move on without it. I've forgiven you, and I won't take revenge on you, but I won't live with you, nor will I be friends with Ernest, Walter, and our children. What? What about our children? They're grown up, on their feet. In case you don't know, you are about to become a grandmother, daughter. Am I right? Yes, Daddy, you are. Still, I don't understand you. Why can't you forget everything, daughter? It's just impossible to forget more than 20 years of deceit. But I'm not giving up on you, my children. I will certainly help my son Henry to build his cottage. I will certainly attend my son Kevin's wedding. I will always help you too, my daughter. But with Viola, I won't have any meetings, especially not with Ernest. Walter got up and went to his room on the second floor. Viola shouted after him, Walter, don't leave home. Stay here. There's enough room for us. What about Ernest? He doesn't have a place to live either. I can't want him. These are your questions, and he's here hoping to get back in touch with you, Walter. That's not true. I'm already leaving, and I'm not going to see Viola. I don't believe you. I don't respect myself. Henry has spoken, Mom. I understand my father, and I think he's right. I can't decide what he should do, and I'm sorry he left you. I am your son, and I will always be there for both you and him, in equal measure. Henry complimented Kevin, you are my mom, and I, no matter what happens, will always be with you and my dad who raised me. I'm sad that you two are separated, but unfortunately, that's the kind of man Dad is. He can't forgive betrayal. Walter was a man of his word, and within the next week, he left the cottage. He rented a place on the opposite corner of town. There was no need for him to be in the neighborhood. Viola, he met at his son's wedding. Walter saw that she was trying to talk to him but was busy chatting with the bride's mother all the day. Dances at the wedding, he danced only with Linda, completely ignoring his wife. Viola never got to talk to him because shortly before the evening was over, Walter disappeared. Walter lived alone and let no one into his life. A year later, the divorce was finalized. His proxy representative was present at the hearing. During the summers, Walter began to visit Linda frequently, helping her maintain the house and run the household. Viola's life, he was never interested in. He managed to raise a decent amount of money and bought a small house on the outskirts. The main thing was that the house had gas, so the problem with heating was solved. From the yard buildings, he had a shed, a small chicken coop, and a garage. After the death of Molly, Linda's mother, he briefly suggested that she move in with him. Linda, after much deliberation, agreed. Viola was left alone, but her son Kevin and his wife Camila moved in soon. Camila became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When Ernest learned that Kevin had a son, he came to visit with a bouquet of flowers for Viola, a bottle of cognac, and a cake. Kevin did not appreciate the selfless gesture and, turning around, took his son from Camila, and they left for their own place. As they left, Kevin said, Uncle Ernest, you will excuse me and Camila. You are not welcome. If you're here to see your mother, that's her business. After 10 minutes, Viola sent the guest away with gifts and flowers, saying, I'm not happy to have you in my house either. Viola had not met Walter and had seen him twice, once when picking up Judy and her granddaughter from the maternity hospital and the second time at Kevin and Camila's wedding. During these meetings, Walter socialized with all the guests, was cheerful, but avoided Viola. All of Viola's attempts to talk to Walter failed. Ernest was also left alone, having been expelled from the cottage. He rented an apartment in the city center. He dated various women but never formed a family. His son Neil sided completely with his mother and had no contact with his father. For Ernest, it was a blow. He had hoped for a reconciliation with Eva, but he no longer had a place in her life. Eva spent a long time going through the men around her, not getting intimate with them and checking them out carefully. Eventually, she fell in love, but remembering the story with Ernest, she was very wary of her new favorite. When Ernest learned that Eva was getting married, he drank for a week, realizing that he could not change anything. Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.